This edition of MacVoices is sponsored by Linode, your solution when you need a virtual server in the cloud. Use the code MacVoices2019 to take $20 off your first purchase at linode.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, if there's one thing that you should get out of watching and listening to MacVoices, if you only take one thing away, it's that you need to back up. One way or another, please, and at least one way, preferably two, definitely three if at all possible. That's why I felt it was really important to have Yev Pusin from Backblaze back to talk a little bit about the new Backblaze 7.0, because a lot of us use Backblaze, and it's my online backup service of choice, and I really think it's important that you know about all the new features and why you should be using Backblaze. Yev, welcome. It's great to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
So I know you've been a little busy getting 7.0 up and running, and so I'm going to just let you run and tell us what is new about 7.0 and what we need to know.
Yeah, thank you. So the headline feature version 7.0 is something that I'm very excited about and was spearheading here internally for a while. It was an answer to one of our most the thing that gets requested the most is to be able to extend your retention period with Backblaze. So by default, Backblaze will keep your data for 30 days after you delete it from your computer. And it's like a rolling 30-day period. Now you can upgrade that to 1 year or forever, in which case we won't delete any of your deleted files or versions, even if they get removed from your computer. And so this is something that's been asked about for years. And one of the things that kind of crescendoed after CrashPlan left the market, they had a longer retention period. And so a lot of their customers that came over to Backblaze, when we're very happy to have them, they said, everything about Backblaze is great. I wish I would have done this sooner, but I just wish your retention period was a bit longer. And so that's what we added with version 7.0. There's a couple other niceties in there. It's a little bit faster at backing up the files from your computer. We made it a bit more efficient. So the application on Mac and Windows is a bit easier in terms of the upload bandwidth usage and the amount of space that will take up on the system. So we've streamlined a couple things there. We added Catalina support that launched on Monday. So we were ready for the day one launch with a couple previous builds to version 6.0, but we tightened everything up with 7.0 as well. So we're ready for Catalina. We have this extended version history, and the app is made more efficient, which is something that we try to do with every single release.
Okay, a bunch of stuff here to unpack, and I want to try to take it in some logical order, but I'm not sure I can do that. So the first thing is that you say you can upgrade to keep it longer, up to a year or forever. So yes. I presume that there are additional pricing structures for those.
There is. So the 30 days comes standard with every single Backblaze account. If you want to bump it up to 1 year, it's $2 extra a month, and that takes care of the additional space usage in our data center. So one of the things that happens with the 30-day plan and with the 1-year plan is once a file is deleted or removed from a user's computer, we'll eventually also remove it from our data center. And thus we can reclaim the space and use it for other people's files. That doesn't happen on the forever plan. We just keep we just keep the files forever if you've selected it. And that works in a similar way. It's $2 per month for the first year. And after the first year, what we'll do is we'll start keeping track of how much physical space the files that you've removed from your computer are taking up in the data center. And we'll charge you half a penny per gigabyte per month, similar to our B2 pricing for the space that they're using. That might sound a little odd to folks, but really, if you never delete files from your computer, none of these features really apply. If everything is always on your machine and you don't really make a habit of deleting stuff, then you can stick with the 30 days. As long as the file's on your computer, we would never remove it from your backup. If you do like to prune and you are worried about accidentally deleting something that you maybe want in the future, the 1 year is a great option. It gives you an additional 11 months of coverage. And if you are kind of a digital pack rat and want nothing deleted ever for any reason, then the forever plan is great. And the nice thing is the forever plan only charges based on the size of the files that have been deleted. And it's half a penny per gigabyte. So you imagine it would actually take a really long time to accrue any meaningful charges.
And you and I have talked about this a little bit before, but I think it's important to make sure that people understand that if I have the iMac I'm talking to you on, and it's got a one terabyte hard drive, it's going to eventually send about 1 terabyte up.
Mm-hmm.
If I plug a 14 terabyte Drobo into that, eventually it will send up 14 terabytes plus the original 1 terabyte.
Yes.
As long as it's plugged in. If I disconnect the Drobo, then that 14 terabytes sits there for up to 30 days. And then on the 31st day, it gets deleted from your servers.
Correct. And so we try to address that with the pop-ups and the emails that we send out. So in your example, if you disconnect the Drobo, we'll send you an email after 14 days saying, hey, it's been a minute since we've seen this. And then we'll send you another email a week later saying, hey, it's been 3 weeks. Please plug it in because you're about to hit this 30-day marker. And then on day 28, we'll also send kind of a final, hey, if you don't plug this in, we'll eventually reclaim this space. We highly recommend that you plug it back in. And so this feature, the extended version history, allows people to add additional time to that timer. So yes, if you go to the 1 year version history, the 30 days no longer applies, even for the extended or the external hard drives that you have connected.
But I've disconnected my hard drive, and on day 31, I start to get billed from you for would you say half a cent?
So good question. So if you're on the 1 year plan, right, there's no additional billing. It's just a rolling 1 year period from the time that you select the plan. So in your case, you are on day 30 of your Drobo being connected. Or let's make it easier. You're on day 20 of your Drobo being connected. You've received 2 emails from us saying, hey, plug it back in. You go into your Backblaze account, you select 1 year version history. We'll charge you a prorated amount, $2 a month. So if you're on a 1 year plan, it would be $24 prorated to your billing period, right? Just to keep everything neat. And then once you hit day 30, nothing happens. Now, once you hit day 364, in that case, the following day will also remove that data if you have not plugged your Drobo in over that 364-day period. Does that make sense? And then, so then the other option, the forever option, once you hit day 366, and you still haven't plugged in your Drobo, then the 14 terabytes would be calculated at half a penny per gigabyte because it's no longer connected on your computer and it's no longer there. But we won't delete it. We won't reclaim that space on our end. But it will, at that point, you will accrue those incremental charges, but not for the first year.
And that incremental charge, this is going to be. So
I can make it easier for you. Half a penny per gig equates to about $5 a terabyte if you scale everything up.
Okay. And that's not where I was. Thank you. Because
sorry.
I was not good enough to do the math, but where I was going was, so that's my 14 terabyte Drobo is backed up. And so if I then plug a second, let's just say a second 1 terabyte drive in, we'll try to make it easy.
Yeah.
Then the data on that 1 terabyte drive is still subject to the normal Well, I guess if it's in the forever plan, it really all just mixes together.
It all mixes together, and it's a rolling 1 year or forever period. So if you have the 14 terabyte Drobo plugged in, and then halfway through the year, you plug in another external hard drive, you back it up, and then you unplug it, and we never see it again, that drive's data will also be backed up. And then the forever incremental charges will start 1 year after the last time it was plugged in.
That's what I was trying to ask, and I was doing a terrible job of it.
No, it's okay.
So
it's a rolling period. Kind of the first time charge, the $2 per year happens automatically and immediately, and it's on a prorated basis. And then the timelines are rolling based on what's happening on your computer and any externals that you have connected.
Got it. Okay. I don't know if this is a good time to start showing what the interface looks like, or what is in. Maybe I'll do it this way. What is involved with moving from 6.0 to 7.0?
So all you have to do there is, if you're on a Mac, you can right-click on the Backblaze icon in your menu bar and then say check for updates. It'll take you to the updates page. You just download the latest version 7.0 and install it over the top of your current installation. So it's very simple. You can also go to backblaze.com/updates, I think, and that will also take you to the same page. And that will enable you to do this version history setting, and will get you the updated, more performant application as well.
Got it. Okay. Can you show us a little bit of it?
Yeah, I should also say that we'll be starting to roll out auto update in the next couple of weeks, and so most people will automatically be moved to version 7.0. But if you want to do it sooner rather than later, by all means.
Today's MacVoices is supported by Linode. You can build it on Linode. What can you build on Linode? Pretty much anything you want from a server perspective. With fast native SSD storage, industry-leading processors, and a 1.4 gigabit network, your server is going to be really fast. So your resulting web presence is going to be really fast. With Linode's quick install options, you can get all kinds of servers up and running with just a click or two. WordPress, Minecraft, OpenVPN, Arc, WireGuard, Drupal, and more are all at your command. So creating is easy. Even if you have dozens of Linodes installed, their easy-to-use dashboard makes managing simple. So management is easy. Linode has data centers all over the world, from Newark to London, Singapore to Toronto. Linode has you covered. So managing geography-related matters is easy. In those rare instances that a problem does arise, Linode has 24/7 customer support. So support is easy. You can configure backups when you need them, with 3 times replication. So keeping the data on your server safe is easy. Increasing and decreasing storage can be done with a click. So adjusting to your growing or shrinking needs is easy. In other words, using Linode for your virtual cloud server is easy. That's why you need to visit linode.com/MacVoices right now to find out what it can do for you and to get a $20 discount on your first purchase. That's Linode, linode.com/MacVoices. If you've been wanting to check out a virtual server, now's your big chance. Go to linode.com/MacVoices and get started today. Thanks to Linode for their support of MacVoices.
So this is just the Backblaze homepage. I'm going to sign in under a test account. And you can see on this overview page, we grew this little new iconography here next to the version history line to kind of call it out for folks so they know what it looks like. And I have 2 computers here. One of them is 30 days, which is the default. So everyone will be set to that, or everyone has that setting rather, unless they change it later. And the computer underneath it is set to 1 year already. So I had made a change initially to 1 year. So I'll show you kind of both moving up in version history and then moving back down if for whatever reason you no longer want to have it. It's very simple. All you do on the version history selection is you click this upgrade button, and it pops up this modal. And the modal tells you when your version history changed, when it was last set. Gives a little bit of a rundown of how it works, shows what your current selection is, and then goes through the different pricing options. So here I have 1 year, and you can see down below it pops up a little, hey, this will be prorated, and it'll be about $24 a year. $23.42 in this case, since my proration period is only a couple days old, or forever. So similar thing, but then file versions and deleted files older than 1 year will be billed at half a penny per gigabyte per month, which is about $5 a terabyte. But again, it's only $5 a terabyte for the files that you've deleted. So in your case, if you unplug an external drive, we do consider that a deletion. But for the majority of users, they're not deleting anywhere near 1 terabyte of data from their computer at any given moment. And so here I'll choose the forever plan. I will just click update, and that has now changed to forever. You get this nice little success message up at the top, and that's it. It really is that simple. If you ever want to change, for example, if I want to go from forever down a step, which is a way to clear all of that version history. If, for example, those charges start racking up and you want to clear them, like let's say you're nearing about, a $3 charge per month, and you're like, you know what, I just want to start over, clear everything out. Maybe I went through like a massive deletion event, and I for sure know that I don't want any of those files or versions in the future. You can clear all of that history, and you can do that by going back from forever to either 1 year or 30 days. We pop up a little warning saying, if you do this, you won't have access to the previous files prior to the period that you choose here. So I'm going to go down to 30 days. Click update. We show one more little warning dialogue to make sure that everyone understands what's going on, because going from forever to 30 days means that all of your previous version history will be moved up to the 30-day marker. So anything beyond that point will no longer be accessible. We'll apply those changes, and then I'm done. Back to 30 days. And so it really is that easy. And one of the nice things that we also did, which I didn't mention at the top, was we changed the way that the restore page functioned in order to enable this setting. So if you've ever restored from Backblaze, you may remember a drop-down menu of when you could select time periods and time frames. Well, that doesn't work if you're scrolling forever. And so we had to change that a little bit. And so now we have a date picker that we've added. And so here you can see the interface has changed slightly. And now you can go back in time. In this case, I'm set to 30 days. But I started my backup on October 2nd, so I can't go back further than that, which makes sense intuitively. But I can select, let's say I only want to see files that were backed up from the beginning of my backup through October 4th, because I know that the file no longer exists after the 5th, because that's when I deleted it. You can go here and see what your backup state was like as of October 4th. And so the date picker really helps enable all the new restore functionality with the extended version history.
And it's important to note, I think, here that you're doing all this from the Backblaze website, your account on the Backblaze website. You're not doing this locally on your Mac. Correct.
Yeah. So everything is done via the web, which enables you to download or access your files wherever you are.
And if you think about it, that makes perfect sense, because really the only thing that the Backblaze client on your machine should be doing is determining what needs to be backed up and sending it.
Exactly.
You're doing all the file management on your servers, and therefore the web interface is the interface to those servers.
Yeah, we get a lot of praise for this. If you think about it, sometimes when you need access to your files, you're not near your computer. Your PC may be at home, especially if it's a desktop and it's running all the information. And if we were downloading via like a client of some kind, in order to access that information, you would have to download the client onto a computer somewhere, run the client, access the files. Whereas here, you just go open up any web page or open up any web browser, go to the Backblaze site, and you can have access to those files. One thing I will note, since we're talking about restores, the majority of folks only download 1 or 2 files. And I believe with either version 5.0 or 6.0, I can't quite remember, we added the ability to directly download files. So if you're downloading a bunch of files, we zip them up and we send you the zip, or you can download the zip inside of your browser. That process takes a little bit of time because we have to zip up the files that you've selected. So especially if you're downloading gigs and gigs and gigs of files, it may take a few minutes for that zip to be prepared. And we send you a notification email saying like, hey, it's ready. So the ability to download files directly supplants that. You can, if you're looking for an XLS file or a spreadsheet because you're about to give a presentation and you forgot it and your flash drive isn't working for whatever reason, you just log into the website, find that spreadsheet that you're looking for, and you can directly download it inside of your browser. So we've made that a lot simpler as well. Got it.
One thing that I want to make sure we are very clear on here too, because you used a word that can be misinterpreted if we're not careful,
sure.
And that is versions.
Yes.
So is Backblaze a versioning backup kind of thing? In other words, if I have a presentation that I've developed in Keynote at 8 a.m. yesterday morning, and then edited it at 12, and then edited at 4, and again this morning, can I roll back to, or excuse me, can I go, scratch that. Can I go back and get one of those earlier versions, or is it just constantly keeping it updated on Backblaze so that the most recent version, that at least when I was connected to the internet, that's what's there?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And especially with this feature, it's very important to get it right. So Backblaze is constantly scanning your computer for changes. So if you've saved over the top of a file, we will back up the most recent change that we see. But if we've backed up different versions of that file, like let's say you're working on it over the day, throughout the day, the same presentation, you had a backup that occurred at 9 a.m., you had a backup that occurred at, let's say, noon, and then one again at 3 o'clock, but you've been kind of working and saving over the top of every single version, you would have all those 3 versions in Backblaze.
Oh, so how far back do you go?
So for the regular period, it's 30 days. It's a 30-day version history. But the amount of versions that you have is dependent on your backup. So if you have Backblaze set to backup once a day, we would only get the most recent version. If we're going continuously, then we'll pick up the new versions throughout the day as we're backing up your computer.
So theoretically, you could have 30, 35, 40 versions of my presentation.
Yeah, over the course of a couple of days, if you've been working on it for weeks on end and you haven't been saving as, I'm a save as kind of guy, but not everyone is. But so yes, if you're working on the same file and you're just saving over the top of it, every time the backup runs, we'll grab the most recent version available.
And that's really important to understand, I think, because a lot of us are familiar with the time machine concept in the Mac OS, and that operates along similar lines, but maybe a little differently, especially since it's not in the cloud.
Right. So time machine. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, this is almost the best of both worlds.
Yeah, so we modeled it a little bit after Time Machine in that way. Now, Time Machine can grab almost every version after every single save event. We have a little bit of a delay since we have to do a little bit more work. But at every backup event that occurs, we will grab the most recent version. And so if you're thinking through it or thinking about it, you can have 30 days worth of those versions for any particular file. If you go to 1 year version history and you've been working on this, it's the presentation of your life, Chuck. You've been working on it for 6 months. You're presenting at a conference. It's very important. And you would be able to single step back in time to get the version that you wanted from 5 months ago, which really was the version of your dreams. You just didn't know it at the time, and you've made things more complicated. And now you have to go back and try to find the one that you feel most strongly about. So yes, the answer is you could do that if you upgrade your version history.
Got it. Yeah, I definitely want to touch on Catalina, since a lot of folks some of us are waiting a little bit, at least on our production machines, but a lot of us are jumping in also either on secondary machines or with external hard drives as an option to play with it a little bit. I know you said earlier that Backblaze 7 is Catalina ready. Any hiccups or any gotchas as we make that transition?
Well, the one thing I will caution anyone when they're changing their operating system in any way is, of course, make sure you have your backup set and you have tested them. I think that goes without saying at this point, but we have a lot of people that aren't backing up their computers in any way, so I will continue to say it. Any OS changes or any hardware changes really that might affect how your machine is working, just make sure that you have backups in place in case it never boots up again. You don't want the day that you decide to get the brand new operating system to be the day that your computer shuts down forever, because then you go from an elation to a devastation state really quickly, and having a backup kind of helps you along those lines. The one thing I'll mention, if you're upgrading from Mojave or any previous operating system to Catalina, sometimes installing Backblaze on top of a new operating system will prompt you to inherit your backup state. And what that means is we see a new operating system, and our program thinks, well, we're not exactly sure what this is, so we may install as a brand new trial instead of just installing over the top of your existing Backblaze installation. We have a feature called Inherit Backup State. If you right-click on the app and say Inherit Backup State, it'll prompt you to essentially merge your previous computer's backup history onto this one. So if all that's changing is your operating system and the data is the same, you will inherit the backup state, essentially where your previous computer left off, onto the new installation of this operating system. And we'll pick up right where you left off. We may scan your computer again just to make sure that there's no diffs in the files, but then we'll just deduplicate and you won't actually have to re-upload those files that have existed there forever.
And I've gone through that process when I've changed operating systems and or machines for that matter. And it is it's a pretty logical, pretty seamless process. You know, it takes a minute to get it done, but you know it saves all that re-uploading. There's no question about that. So that's a big thing.
Yeah, and in a world of like bandwidth caps, which are unfortunately becoming more and more common, it's a feature that we see get used more and more frequently as people are trying to avoid re-uploading all of their data once they move computers.
Yeah, one other thing that I want to sort of circle back on the 30-day, the year, and the forever plans. Mm-hmm. Well, it would impact depending on which. I'm doing a terrible job of this again. Okay. What I was about to say, I plugged in a 14 terabyte Drobo. Mm-hmm. Okay, is the 14 terabyte Drobo automatically being backed up to Backblaze, or do I have to select it?
You should select it in your Backblaze settings just to make sure. Sometimes we do auto detect it, but I don't believe we automatically select it for backup. Sometimes you're plugging in a lot of external components into your computer, and so it is an additional step that we ask you to take, which is we'll recognize it as an attached system. But you should go into your Backblaze settings in the app, and then it's a single checkbox where you can just blink on the Drobo and it'll start backing it up.
I ask only because if somebody out there plugs in a 14 terabyte Drobo and they've selected the forever plan, all of a sudden in a year, they might start getting bills for all these files that they didn't realize or didn't think about. So I would kind of agree with you. You know, auto detect is nice, but especially if you're having those options, it's probably a good idea to say, hey, you know, be aware.
Yeah. Exactly. Do you want this to actually be backed up? Are you aware of the ramifications? And if you do make a mistake and you get to the 1 year mark and we send you an estimate, right? Like, hey, your forever version history is about to kick in for files that you've deleted over a year ago. And you look at that number and you're like, well, it's 75 cents, but it's 75 cents more than I want to pay, because then you can reset your version history at that point by going down to 1 year or the 30-day marker.
I really like the addition of especially of the forever plan for those folks that have stuff that they want to protect forever. It solves the problem of trying to buy something like your mass storage service or somebody else's mass storage service and manage all that. This way, once it's up and if I'm on the forever plan, all I have to do is pay the bill and I know it's taken care of. Yeah,
there's an interesting. We're trying to be careful with not calling this an archive of any kind, because it really isn't exactly the same thing, but it's close. Meaning, if you never want anything deleted and you truly are a digital pack rat, the forever plan is great. But if you get to a point where you're thinking, oh, actually, I delete a ton of data, or I have 4 of these 14 terabyte Drobos, and now this is costing me a ton of money, using B2 cloud storage is actually going to be less expensive for you, because you won't be paying for the Backblaze license, and you won't be paying the additional $2 for the 1 year plus the forever charges after that 1 year, right? So if you truly have a lot of data and you want to control exactly when it gets deleted, the B2 cloud storage is still the better option. And we have a ton of integration partners that make backing up devices very easy. And also, if you want to make sure that certain subsets of your data are kept forever, with version 6.0, we have the Save to B2 feature, which is in 7.0 as well. And what that allows you to do is you can select different files for recovery, and you can send them over to B2 Cloud Storage, where they're going to sit forever until you delete them, and they will accrue half a penny per gigabyte per month charges as well. But you're not charged at that point for the licensing for the data that lives inside of B2. It's just the half a penny a gig. So there is a point in which it breaks in your favor to abandon the computer backup service and just go to the B2 Cloud Storage service. But if you're not really ready to commit, then the forever plan is a good option. And by the way, if at any point you say, hey, this is costing too much, you can also select all of your files, send them to B2, and that can act as a snapshot of your system in one point in time. Ooh. And it'll live there forever until you delete it. All you have to do is recover that snapshot. And once you unpack it, it will have all of your files inside.
Every question seems, and every answer, I should say, leads to another question.
That's great.
Let's also be real clear on this. When you say it's a snapshot of your system, so am I talking about I would have the opportunity to download or obtain something that becomes bootable, or is this pretty much strictly data?
No, just data. So it still works within the Backblaze parameters. Great question. And so it's just the data that gets backed up. But it will be the data on your machine at a certain point in time. So the example that I give every time with the Save to B2 feature is, let's say you have your tax documents in your tax folder, and that doesn't really change except for a couple times a year, or maybe it's an addition of a couple documents once a year. Saving that to B2 Cloud Storage with the Save to B2 feature, you can name it taxes 2016, then do it again the next year, 2017, then do it the next year, 2018. And regardless of what happens to the backup on your computer, so maybe the computer goes away, maybe you delete those files on accident, they will remain in B2 Cloud Storage for as long as your account is in good standing.
Makes sense.
Until you delete them. So that is closer to more of an archival use case, where if you truly know things that you never want to be removed, saving it to B2 is a great feature.
Okay, one last thing, and then we'll wrap this up, because there's so many options here, and I want to make sure that folks kind of understand what is happening, especially with the new features, with the year feature and the forever feature. So I know we've talked about before with the 30-day, when the 30-day option was there, that I could send you a hard drive and have you, instead of me re-downloading everything, send you a hard drive, have you copy it and send it back to me. Now with the forever, or with the 1 year or the forever, we potentially are talking about a lot more data.
Yeah.
You'll have the options to send you a physical device to load and then send back.
So the restore by mail feature, just to correct you slightly, you wouldn't send us the hard drive. We ship one to you, and you can return it for a refund, or you can keep it if you want the extra hard drive at home. With version 6.0, we increased the maximum capacity of our restores to about 8 terabytes. And so that should cover the vast majority of use cases. I think the example you gave with a 14 terabyte Drobo, in our user base, that is a quite large outlier. The majority of folks are using much less data than that. And so the 8 terabyte is kind of also the outer bound. But in your case, let's say you do have a 14 terabyte Drobo that you're trying to recover, you could just break up the restore into two selections, and we'll send you 2 hard drives.
Got it. Yeah. With all due respect to the outliers out there, they're those folks that are going to push the edge, and we want to make sure we have them covered as well as all the normal people.
Absolutely. Every time that an article of ours goes on Reddit or Hacker News or something, and I'm in the comments, one of the common themes that I find kind of endearing is people apologize for the amount of data they're storing with our unlimited plan. And my response to that is, well, it's unlimited. We work off the averages. So look, if you're using 14 terabytes of service, which is clearly losing us money, right, on you as a customer, all we ask is that you invite a couple of your buddies that don't have a lot of data, and they will eventually work out in our favor, right? So it's a law of averages, and the vast majority of folks are using much less than 14 terabytes. And if you're using a lot, then just invite some folks that aren't using as much over.
Yeah, good point.
Oh, so, I should say we also have a refer a friend program as well. So if you log into your account, we make it very easy to invite your buddies that may have less data than you.
So we've been dancing around this and talking about the incremental numbers. What kind of charge is there for just the basic plan, and then everything else is on top of that?
So Backblaze license for 1 month is $6 a month. It's unlimited backup. If you want to add 1 year version history to it, it would be $2 a month. So if you extrapolate that out, it's $60 a year, or plus $24 a year if you get the 1 year plan. But the basic, the same Backblaze service that you know and love is the same $6 a month. The extended version history is an additional charge at $2 a month for the first year. And if you go to forever, it goes to $2 a month plus the incremental charges for deleted files after that year.
And the beauty of Backblaze, as far as I'm concerned, is once I have it set up and it's uploading to the cloud, after that initial upload, I don't have to think about it. I don't have to maintain it. I don't have to do anything. And the fact that you all email me notifications if anything goes wrong, or some of the, as we said earlier, the when the charges are going to start, when something's going to be deleted. I mean, it's just an overall great service. I feel like I have a butler in some ways, trying to manage my data for me. So I can't recommend it highly enough, especially if you are one of those that is maybe not as good as you should be about cloning locally or anything. Mm-hmm. Do this. It won't take you a Saturday morning to set it up. It'll probably take you, let the kids watch cartoons for half an hour, and you're up and running. And
oh yeah, the download and installation process is a matter of minutes. The initial upload might take a long time depending on how much data you have, but after that, the incrementals should be very almost transparent. And we use very little system resources as well, which is kind of a nice benefit of our app too. It should be out of the way. Really, if you want to think about Backblaze in a way, it's like data insurance. Like you never really want to think about it until you need it. And when you need it, you're really glad that you have it. And so that's kind of what we're trying to do.
And you would pay a whole lot of money to try to recover a hard drive if it can be recovered. So
yes,
this is cheap. This is, out of sheer curiosity, do you do a last in, last out kind of update, or do you a first in, last out update as you're uploading things for that very first time? Are you taking my most recent files first? You taking my largest files first? How are you doing that?
The opposite. So we're taking. We actually do something very kind of cute. I think it's cute. What we realized when we first launched Backblaze was when people would do their initial backup, they would immediately go to the website and they would say, hey, why aren't all of my folders populated? Because on our restore site, we mimic your Finder. We kind of show what your computer looks like hierarchically. And when we were first backing up data, we would do it in size order. And so your smallest directories would populate first on your restore tree. But it freaked people out because they were like, well, not all of my files are there. And then our response would be, well, you have to wait until your initial upload is completed, and then you will be able to see all of the files, which is true in any case. But so what we do now is we take files from every directory that you have selected for backup so that we can populate your tree on the restore server. And from there, we back up smallest to largest.
Got it. So that again sets people's expectations about what to look for and what is happening while it's happening.
Yeah, it's actually that process is kind of interesting because when we're backing up your smallest files, we batch them together. And if you have a lot of files that are very small and you're trying to back them up individually with one process call, you can't saturate a network connection. And so over the last couple updates, we've been working on making the process more efficient and adding better threading options and making the initial upload a lot faster, along with making the app more performant. And so when we batch these files together, we can actually start using all of our allotted network bandwidth that you have available on your computer. And one of the benefits is you no longer have to wait for us to start backing up larger files to get everything out of your bandwidth performance, if that makes sense. Because the way that the calls are made, like if we send one 1K file up and then wait and then 1K file up, we're never going to be efficient at using your network. And so a lot of people would see slow upload speeds from us until we got to their larger files when we could actually saturate the pipe. And so the batching and the threading has really helped get a lot of those smaller files up much more quickly. So you'll see a lot more performant network usage too.
Got it. Again, makes perfect sense. You know, as somebody that has experienced this, as you guys set it up, it makes a lot of sense. You just have to understand why it makes sense.
Of course.
So how would you like to save us both a whole lot of emails?
How do you mean?
You need to explain your T-shirt, or otherwise I know we're going to get emails.
Oh, I see. So Catblaze. I guess the easiest way to explain it is if you go to catblaze.com, all will be made clear to you.
Okay. but the service is Backblaze. So
that is correct. Backblaze.com for online backup and B2 cloud storage, or Catblaze if you're curious about the T-shirt.
Yeah, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate you being patient with us and helping us understand, because backups are arguably the most important thing we cover here on MacVoices. So thank you so much. And thank you for a great service.
Yeah, my pleasure on both counts.
We'll talk to you soon.
Cheers. Thank you, Chuck.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. If you are using Backblaze, I hope this was educational. If you're not using Backblaze, I hope this convinces you that you really should go and use Backblaze as your online backup service. You never know when you're going to lose data, when that hard drive is going to go bad, or now when that SSD goes bad. The interesting thing about SSDs is we don't have as much warning as we sometimes did with spindle drives. And note I said sometimes. So having a good online backup strategy is easy, safe, simple, and very cost effective. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.